Right, in today's video, we are going to talk about our system for tomorrow night, bringing some snowfall, portions of the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Potential snowflakes flying in the air Christmas Eve. We'll show you where that's going to be. Then a couple major pattern changes over the next couple of weeks. Warmer pattern and then to a sharply colder pattern, so we're going to take a look at that. First, if you haven't yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and help the channel to keep growing. I appreciate that. So get right into it here. So we've got a clipper-like system moving into the upper Midwest today, bringing some snow and some wind to portions of the upper Midwest. That is going to dive down across the Great Lakes region tomorrow and then start to transfer its energy to a storm system off the coast. And that storm system really gets going. That's our big storm that we had been talking about, but it's going to stay just off the coast. You can see that it does blow up. Look at that heavy snow band just off the coast. If you're along the Cape, Cape Cod, portions of northeastern Maine, it's a really close call for you. It's just offshore, so we'll have to watch that. If the models bring that back just a little bit, you get into some moderate to possibly heavy snow, and that would be overnight Friday. Now let's take a closer look because the models are showing an interesting feature with this. With the two systems kind of coming together. So here's the European, and so we'll put this is now late Friday. You can see as the one system transfers to the other system, there's likely going to be some type of inverted trough feature, and that's why you kind of see that weird northeast to southwest snow band setting up. Whenever you have an inverted trough, you have rapidly rising air underneath that. And that can produce some pretty good snowfall rates, and then you have sinking air to the side of it, so you tend to have like a narrow area of where maybe moderate to possibly at times heavy snowfall. Now, most of the models are not too enthused with this, but the European, which has the reputation of being Dr. No, where really doesn't jump onto these things as much as some of the high-resolution models, it's quite the opposite. The European is the most enthused about this, so we can't discount it at this point. So the European, so you can see the snow. We'll back this up a little bit. So this is Friday night, 7 p.m. We'll back that up a little bit. So late tomorrow, you can see some of the lighter blues, and then you have kind of a narrow band of some blues getting a little bit darker there, showing maybe some moderate snowfall. And this is now 1 a.m. Friday. And then it starts to shift eastward, and this is now 7 a.m. Friday, and then gone Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, really probably Saturday, late Saturday morning, that's off the coast. As far as the snowfall totals on the European, again, this is the most enthused out of the models. You can see a wide area of 1 to 4 inches, and then a narrow area there, the dark blues, that's 3+. So that looks like some of the immediate suburbs of just outside of Philadelphia, stretching back over the Poconos. You have Scranton, Williamsport area. Could be 3 to 4 inches on the European. And these when you get an inverted trough, the ratios tend to be pretty high too. So this is a 10-to-1 ratio. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, most of the models are not too enthused by this. The European is one of the better models though. So these types of scenarios are very hard, very tricky to forecast and pin down exactly where the heaviest band's going to be sitting. This is where the European has it right now. So it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow how this develops. Going back to the GFS now. So that system moves out, high pressure moves in. It's going to be pretty cold, mid-Atlantic and northeast in its wake. And then we'll start to warm up. But we are going to watch another system on Christmas Eve. You can see this is the GFS here. So Christmas Eve, going to be some snow flying. Exactly where, I think best chance right now is going to be I-80 north. So I-80 across Pennsylvania, going into New Jersey, and the north of there is probably the best bet. But can't discount some snowflakes flying maybe as far south as Philly. Certainly just can't discount it around the New York City area. But I think the further north you are, the better chance you have. But pretty good, pretty exciting to see snowflakes flying, even if it doesn't accumulate a whole lot on Christmas Eve. And then that moves out, so your Christmas Day is then dry in the northeast. Now we do have a system taking shape there in the central part of the United States. So on Christmas Day, you have a little bit of unsettled weather there across the lower Mississippi Valley up into Illinois. And the pattern turns really active in the west, where there's just going to be storm system after storm system moving into the Pacific Northwest, really northern California up through Washington and Oregon. You can see there's one system. I'll put this in motion here, and then another one, and they really just kind of keep coming as a trough really settles in, where there's been a ridge. A trough will take its place for a good week to 10 days. So could be a lot of snow in the Sierras and the Cascades. And actually, let's just go over to total precipitation. You can see, look at all that precipitation there. So a ton of precipitation, snowfall in the mountains. That's going to be starting here the coming week. So turning really active out there. And as far as the long-term pattern goes, let's pull up the GFS ensembles. So we have that ridge in the western part of the United States. There's our system in the east. You can see that trough, which is the blue, trough of low pressure, and that ridge out west. And then you can see that big trough off the west coast. That's going to kick out our ridge, change our pattern as we go through past Christmas. So Christmas to New Year's, as that trough settles in. Obviously, cooler, unsettled weather in the west, specifically the northwest, turning warmer for much of the country, especially the eastern 2/3 from Christmas to New Year's, as that trough settles in and that ridge really kicks out east. But then all the models are showing another pattern change coming right around the new year. Look at those heights really start to build. See that the oranges, the reds there, that is a ridge building back in the western part of the United States, which will change the pattern and allow colder air to filter back into the United States. So that is setting up to be a pretty cold pattern. Now, it's going to take a little bit of time. There's going to be a little bit of lag because there's going to be some milder air that needs to kind of get kicked out first before it really starts to turn cold. So right around January 1st, and that's kind of what I've been targeting for another pattern change as the MJO goes into the colder phases. So the EPO, which is that big ridge there you see through Alaska up into the Arctic, AO, the Arctic Oscillation turning negative. So those all indicate a turn to a colder pattern. And then what's really interesting is you have this blocking, which was our ridge really in the west, which kicks east, kind of gets trapped there. And that blocking is going to help to, once the pattern really starts to turn colder, lock in that cold air. And that's what you want to see if you like big snowstorms on the East Coast. So it's going to be active in the west. Once we get to around New Year's, though, that pattern changes as that ridge takes place. And then I think the pattern as the MJO, we'll go over the MJO real quick, which is going into phase 6 right now. 7's when it starts to turn colder, and you see that is going to be right around the new year. And then it goes through into 8, and then probably eventually 1 and 2. And 8, 1, and 2 are all pretty cold for a good part of the United States. 8, 1, and 2 is where we see most of our snowstorms in the eastern part of the United States. So that's what we're targeting here. So we'll go back to the GFS ensembles. GFS ensembles is not alone. I'll go to the Canadian ensembles here. Same thing. So first week of January, the pattern really starts to change. It's not going to turn like really cold immediately because we have this warm air that we got to kick out. But it will turn cooler, get kind of closer to normal, and then it's probably going to turn sharply colder as this pattern really sets in. MGO gets into those really colder phases. So that's what we're looking at now. Turning warmer for most of the country outside of the Pacific Northwest. Christmas to New Year's, and then January looks like it's going to be a pretty cold month. Pattern change starts January 1st to the colder pattern. Allow some time for that warmer air to get kicked out, and I think the last 3 weeks of January likely to be a good bit colder than normal for a good part of the country, and probably stormy too. Especially if we keep that negative NAO or that blocking over the Hudson Bay area. Going to be some storm threats, no doubt about it. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.